Hey guys, welcome. This is Brad Krantz. Thanks for joining me for my Monday morning leadership today. I want to talk about great leaders empower others. In fact, I think, as we look at leadership and empowerment is to me, and from a personal standpoint, one of the most important things that leaders can do for others. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about that today, share some stuff from John Maxwell, some of my thoughts and observations, a couple quick stories for me as we get into this topic. So again, thanks so much for joining me. John Maxwell says, great leaders unleash the leader within each person. And I've found that to be true for myself. And it really helps liberate them to use their own power. Everyone wants to feel like they're contributing to the vision. I think, at least I know I do. And insecure leaders hoard power, and secure leaders empower others. And we've probably seen that. It's out on memes, but it's really true. And I want to repeat it again. Insecure leaders, and maybe I don't want to even call them that, but insecure leaders hoard power, while secure leaders help empower others. And that's really critical. You can empower others by acknowledging their strengths and potential contributions, and then invite them to lead and contribute in their area of strength. So before we get in, I want to just give a real quick definition of empowerment, what I'm talking about, where I'm thinking of it coming from. And that's that it's the process of becoming stronger and more confident, especially in controlling your life and claiming your rights. Okay. And that's kind of really relates to me too. And further, before getting on, I want three caveats. There can be some obstacles to empowerment, real quick, just so you're aware of them. But if you're in a job situation, obviously the desire for job security. If you're happy where you're at, you don't want to move on, you don't want to move up, take on more responsibility, or get into leadership, there's really no need to be empowered. Okay. And I think also another obstacle is resistance to change. And that's something we kind of all have to deal with. Change, we kind of tend to resist it. But if you're resisting to change, it means you're not developing personally, you're not becoming the person that you need to be. It's going to be pretty hard to be empowered. And thirdly, really kind of relates to a lack of self-worth. If you really don't believe in yourself and believe that you're capable of more, your mindset, then I think that's going to limit or curtail any ability to be empowered. Okay, so those three. So first of all, my story, previous employer, I'm not going to mention them, but I just, it wasn't till actually after I left almost 2 years ago that I felt empowered and realized that I hadn't been in the environment I was in. And it was really, again, as I talked about last week about leadership as influence, and I talked about the law of the lid from a personal standpoint, because that was kind of, and I guess we could look at both these from a negative standpoint, but my feeling of empowerment came afterwards when I decided to start talking about leadership, because I saw its lack out there. I really became empowered, and I really became empowered by a couple people, a good friend and business partner, Val Campbell, and then Adam Reeker. They started watching and seeing what I was talking about on leadership and said, hey, you're really good. That's really good stuff. You should keep doing more. I really like it. And I started to believe that. I said, yeah, well, I've read the books. I've seen and gone to a couple John Maxwell seminars. I've been in enough situations, management with a Fortune 50 company, have my own insurance business, that I know what leadership is or what it should be. And I see where it's not and where it's lacking. So that really motivated me, by having a couple people empower me by encouraging, give me positive affirmation, saying, hey, you're good at this, that it spurred me on to talk about it. And here we are today, sharing a little bit of my story on why I feel empowerment here is so critical, because I've become empowered, right? I guess you could say I've gotten dangerous with it now. But, John Maxwell said leaders become great not because of their power, right? Because of their ability to empower others. And that, again, I think is so critical and really resonates with me. I hope it does with you too. So I could ask a couple questions before we get into this. Who do you think is a good leader? And what attributes do they have that others don't? For one, I think good leaders empower their employees, their teams, their organizations, right? I think without question, I think that's to me is a huge attribute. When a person feels empowered, they're going to work harder. They're going to take more ownership in their work, right? I think that makes sense. And Maxwell notes, that to lead others well, we must help them to reach their potential, right? Leaders create other leaders, right? And you can only do that, I think, if you bring people up to their potential. So only empowered people can reach their full potential. When leaders don't empower their employees or team members, they create barriers to their own company and or team or organization success. Okay. So how do leaders empower others? I want to just share three thoughts on this, or I'm sure there's many others, but I'm not going to go way in depth. But first, I think really encourage open communication. Communication is huge. Many businesses, both big and small, have an environment of top-down communication, right? The leader, the boss, I'm going to actually call it more of a boss, makes a decision or issues an order, and the employees and team members follow through, right? That's kind of what a job situation entails. There's typically the giving of orders and then workers implement them. Okay. And I'll say a good servant leader must know how to listen as part of the communication process. And part of good listening requires the asking of questions. Okay. And good leaders ask good questions. That's a book, by the way. And that's really true. So open communication also requires empathy. You have to care about your team or your employees, but listening has to take place, I believe, before you can truly empathize. If you don't know what's going on, you don't take the time to talk to people and find out what they're feeling, what they're thinking. How can you empathize with them? And I think one of the best ones, I'm not going to get into it, by management by walking around. I mean, I think this came out in the 1960s. I think IBM implemented, but just going around, I'd say I would ask questions like, hey, what's going good in your job or position? What's not, or what could be improved? And think you'd be amazed to find the answers that you'll get if you just ask simple questions and encourage communication, right? Secondly, show respect. And sadly, many leaders, I'm going to call them managers, often don't show respect to their employees or team members, right? We've all seen it happen. I'll give you an example here in a minute. They issue commands and they expect employees to just make it happen. And employees, team members might fear getting fired and follow the commands, but fear is not respect. I saw this when I was in retail grocery. A new district manager came in the store. I worked in the produce department, and he saw something there he didn't like, and he told my produce manager, if I ever see that again, I'll fire you. That doesn't resonate well with me, but that you may follow that because of the positional leadership in, or because fear of your job, but that, trust me, doesn't endear or create respect of that person. Okay, I certainly didn't have a lot of respect for him when I heard that. And this applies obviously in the entrepreneurial realm too, where I am. Model respect to your employees or team members, and they will show you respect back, right? And I really believe respect is earned. It's not just something you can say because of the position you have to respect me. No, I don't. You have to earn my respect. So that's really key. If you model respect, they're going to show you respect back. And one easy way to show respect to your team is with your body language. Okay. Be sure you make eye contact with them and smile. Okay. Give them the complete attention. Avoid looking at your phone or the computer when they're talking, right? I just call it be present, right? With respect, you can get others to follow you, and getting people to follow you and your vision is a key to good business. That's also leadership, right? So when a person feels respected at work or on the team they're in, organization, they're going to be happily do more than is expected. And I found that when people respected me, they earned my respect. I was willing to do more for them, right? Thirdly is delegating tasks. And this seems to be really difficult for people sometimes. I mean, I'll talk a little bit in my previous job. Some leaders won't delegate tasks because they're afraid that they'll lose control, right? I'm the boss, I'm the leader. Or in my case with a former colleague, I asked him what he saw the difference was between the company he was with and the previous company that both him and I are employed at. And he says, Brad, I don't get second guessed, right? Big hint there. So others delegate, but they worry that mistakes may be made, right? We don't want to people have mistakes, right? Failure is always on the horizon, right? The easiest way to delegate is to find an employee or team member who has the skill set needed for the task, and then allow them the room to do the task and report back to you. And having them give you updates on how they're doing is going to allow you the opportunity to keep control and help if a mistake is being made. But as we know too, which this could be a whole different topic, is success. Part of success is failure. You got to allow people to fail so that they can learn. And I think there's sometimes an innate fear in bosses and managers. They don't want people to make mistakes, right? Obviously, you don't want someone to make a critical financial mistake or something, but you learn by making mistakes. But delegation brings freedom and certainly it has to me, and empowerment to both the leader and the employees or team members. So it's really, really important. So enlarging others or empowering others makes you larger. The purpose of power is to be distributed, not hoarded, right? We're kind of going back to what I said originally, but only secure leaders are able to give their power away. So a lot of times the fear of delegation comes because a leader is insecure in who he or she is, and they don't want to give power because it means feels like they're leaving something out there that they want. So they have to be secure, I would say, to really be a good leader, but to be able to help empower others, which is what I hope to do. So recognize and resist the natural inclinations to keep a tight grip on power, right? In the long run, you're going to be rewarded for letting go. And again, we're back to the empowerment here, which is so, so critical as a leadership characteristic, right? So I also hope this lets you see how important empowerment is to acknowledge others' value and their worth. So a couple questions before I close here is ask yourself, how have you been empowered by a leader in your job or business? I'd love to hear that. And secondly, I'd also love to hear and ask the question, how can you as a leader help empower others? Guys, thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you got some value out of this message. I hope it got you to think and to help give you a little bit of a glimpse inside of more of who I am and kind of what motivates me. But again, leadership and empowerment really go hand in hand. And I hope you enjoyed this message. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to get your comments or feedback. And then you're also welcome, as always, to connect with me on social media. Thanks so much for joining me today, guys. Have an awesome Monday. Bye-bye.